Archiving Linux file system. Now archive means what? It is actually means taking a backup. Backup of any file or directory or data. Now how you will take the backup? And what is backup actually? Backup means what? It is just a copy of your data. Backup means simple, it is a copy of your data. You keep that copy in a secure location so that whenever you lose your original data, you can take or you can restore it from that backup file. So it is this simple, it is just like a copy of your file. So whenever you want to take a backup of any file or directory or data, you do what? You just copy it. You can just copy the file and you will get the backup. It is like a backup. So same as for the Linux, it is important, like suppose if you want to edit some configuration file, for example you want to edit this fstep file and you are not sure that your writing or editing is perfect, or you may make mistake, you know that you may mistake. So what you can do, you can just take a backup. Very simple, you just use your copy command and then you will mention what the file name which you want to take a backup, and then you will just put it on somewhere, like I will put it on my home directory with the same name, and then what, I have taken the backup, and then what, I will edit this file, the original file, and if suppose I have made some mistake, then I can recover it from this original file which we have I have taken the backup. So this is also, we can say it is a backup. Now when we do the copy, then it is actually not considered as a backup. Why? Because backup means what? We should take the backup with the whole attribute and the information of the file. But when we copy or move the file, then what happens? The attributes of those files change, and also the ownership and the permissions also change depending on the destination. So if suppose I change the file from here and I copied the file in my home directory, then it is different now. If you see the properties of this original file, fstab, and then the file which we copied here in my home directory, now what we saw here, the attributes are changed. Now the file's permissions are same, because this file is actually created by root and owner is also root, and the file and the copy, the user who is copying the file also is root. So ownership is also same, but you can see the dates are changed here. It is now saying this date, updated, and also the attributes of the file path will also change. Now this file belongs to /root directory. This file does not belong to etc directory. So basically what I want to say, suppose if some other user did this, so the file permissions will also change according to the destination directory, ownership and all that. Like for example, I will copy this file into another directory. Let's, for example, I will copy the same fstep file under where www HTML directory. Now when we check what is that where www HTML directory file, so it actually changed the attributes here. We can see that by using the state command in detail. Now here it shows that this file is here, and you can see the access modified date is right now, today's date. It is all today's date, just right now. And also you can see the context of this SC Linux is also changed. Now we'll see the original file. Now the original file shows different date and time of modified. It shows the different date and time of modified. It is showing the time of yesterday, because yesterday we have modified, or actually today also we have modified this last access. Now also you see here, it is showing here as a SC Linux context, it is saying etc file. this file is etc file and this file is http file. So actually the attributes are changing here according to the destination. So when you do the copy, it will not copy with the attribute. But backup means what? We should copy the data with the attribute. And whenever we restore, that means whenever we restore, it will come with that date and time and with that attributes. So for archiving the files or directory in our Linux system, we have a command called tar. Now this command will do what? It will take a backup. It will take a backup, that means it will just create a copy of your file, but with all the attributes. That means whatever the attributes, whatever the permissions are, whatever the permissions of the file, whatever the other attributes, whatever the path attributes, whatever the other attributes, modify date, or permissions, and any other things. So it will take the backup with the all attributes. Now how it will do that and how we can take the backup? So let's see. So first, what files and directories we have, and let's say I have this file here and I want to take a backup of this file. So what I will do, I will use a command tar, then with the option I will use C for create, then I will use V for verbose, that means it will show what it is doing. Then I will use F for file, that means the file which we want to create after backup. So I want to create a file, and this is the file which I am taking backup. So I can use the name, whatever the name I can use. I will say this file is taken on today is what, 30 I think. Okay, 30 and 7/21. I'm just adding a date into it, the file name. We can add we can add a date, we can add whatever we want. It is just for remembering that what was when we have taken the file backup, or we can just add some information into it, or we can just change totally change the name also. But at the end I will add .tar so that I can remember this is my backup file. And then I will mention the name of the original file which I want to take the backup, this file. So tar is a command, then option C will take a backup verbosely, and F for file, the file which we want to create after the backup, and this is the file I want to create. So I make some descriptive thing here, like I made the date here, that when I have taken the backup. But you can add anything here, any name here. It is not necessary to have the same name as the file name. You can add any name here. And importantly, I am adding the .tar here so that I know that this is the backup file. So I know that this is the backup file. For my understanding, I am adding the tar here. But if you don't add .tar, then still it will be the tar file. Because the system knows the type of the file. We don't have to add the extension for system. For Linux system, the extensions are not important. But for my understanding, I am adding the .tar here. And this is the original file which we want to take the backup. Then I will say OK. And then what it shows that it is taking the backup of this file. Now what happened here when you check the directory, so you can see now this is our original file, and then it has created a backup file of this, and this is it looks like this, and you can see the color is also a different. Now this color, whenever we see, that means what? It is a tar file. So whenever you see this color file, that means what? It is a tar file. And you see dot extension .tar I am adding only for my reference, but basically this color means what? It is a tar file. Now we have taken the backup. Now if suppose we lose the data, now what I will do, I will not keep that backup file into the same location. I will move this file into the safe location. Now where I can move the file into the external drive, I can move the file into a flash drive, I can move the file into a CD, DVD or tape drive. Basically in organizations they use tape drives for taking a backup, so we can also write this on tape drive. So we can just secure the file, and then whenever we lose the data, we lose the original file, we can restore it from this backup file. So what we have to do, suppose I lose the data here, I will remove this file from here. This is the original file and I'm removing with RF option, and it is going to remove without any recycle bin, and you will not find it anywhere. Now we have removed it, but we still have a backup. Now for example, the backup file we have moved it into the external drive or flash drive or CD, DVD or the tape drive. Then what we will do, first we will connect those drives, and then what we will do, we will mount the drive, and after mounting we will see the file there, and then what we can do, we can just restore the file. So for restoring the file, what we will use the command tar again, and then for restoring we will use command option X for extract, and C for V for verbosely, and F for file, and then we will mention the file name which is the tar file, which is our backup file. So next, enter, and it is going to restore the file. When you check, now we'll see our original file is now back. Now that does not mean it will delete the backup file. Backup file will remain as it is. It will not remove the backup file. Backup file we will remain it will remain as it is. It will only extract the file and restore the backup, restore the file. Now taking the backup of one file, it is not that no one takes the backup of only one file. What we do, actually we take the backup of multiple files, and we take the backup of directly a directory which contains all the files. So for example, the option will be same. Now what I will do, I will create a directory here. One, and I want to take the backup of this directory. Now remember, we will not take the backup of a single file. Normally we take the backup of the whole files. That means multiple files with the directory. So what I will do, I will put some file here into this directory. Actually I will do what, I will put all these files in that directory. So what I will do, I will move all the files which starts from E, wildcard character, and I want to move them to this directory. Then I want to move all the files which starts from F into D1. Then also I want to move what I want to move now, I want to move this file and this file. Okay, I will move all of them. So I will move up.txt into D1. Then I will move what we have now, test.sh into D1. Then I will move output into also D1, and then I will move this one also D1, and Anaconda also I will move to D1, or I should not move that. Okay, now what is remaining here? Okay, now I will, okay, now in our directory we have some files here also. So the directory we have with files. So this is the directory we have with all the files, and now we want to take the backup of this directory. So the command is same, the command which we take which we use for the for the file, the same command we use for the directory also. The command will not be the difference, only the change is that instead of the name of the file we give the name of the directory. So the command is tar hyphen cvf for creating the backup. Then we will mention the file backup file name. Let's say I will give directly d1.tar. This is my backup file, and then I will mention the name of the directory which I want to take the backup. So instead of the name of the file, I am giving the name of the directory. And because of V, it is showing that what it is doing this, it is taking the backup of all these files inside the directory. And now when we check, so now this is the directory and this is the backup file of that directory. Now if we lose the directory, so we can restore the backup also. Now I will do what? I will remove the directory with -rf option. So with all of the things, with all the files also. Now when we check, so the directory, the backup, the directory is not there, but we still have a backup. So what we can do? We can restore it. We can restore it by using the command tar -xvf for extracting, and then just we have to mention the name of the directory, the backup file. And because of V, it shows that what it is doing here. And what it is doing, it is restoring the file, the directory, and when we check, directory is back, and directory is back with all its files also. So all the files are also back. Now this tar file do, this tar command do what? It takes the backup with the attributes I said. And also when suppose we have multiple tar files, like we have this tar file, we have this tar file, we have many tar files available, we have taken the backup. Now we want to see that what is inside this tar file, what inside this tar file, and what is inside any other tar file. For example, I want to restore some file, and I'm looking for this that specific file, and I'm having multiple tar files and don't know in which tar we have that file which we want to restore. So we have to check the tar file, what these tar files are containing, what files they are having. So for that, what we can do, we can use the tar command with -tvf. This T is for list. We can list the tar file to check what is inside the tar file. So when I see this d1.tar, it shows that under the d1.tar we have this directory, then under the directory we have these files. Now when you see this, it is storing, it is actually taking the backup with all the attributes, and you can see the files with all the permissions. So all the permissions and also all these attributes, when it was modified, what was the last access time on everything. So it stores, it takes the backup under this with all the attributes of the file. So we can check with -tvf, we can check what is inside any tar file. So this tar command we can use to take the backup with the attribute, and then we can restore it after losing the main data. Now one more thing, we have taken the backup of this directory, and the tar file is this. Now if we check the size of these two things, like the directory size and the size of this tar file. So for checking the size of the directory, we do use this command du-sh, and then we mention the name of the directory which we want to check the size. So it says it is 44 KB. This directory size is, total size is 44 KB. Now let's check what is the size of this tar file. So that tar file is, we will check this by using the -lh option, ls-lh. Also I will use D for this directory. So it is showing here that this the size of this, okay, not the directory, I should check the file .tar. So what is the size? It is showing 20 KB. So the directory size is 44 KB and this size is 20 KB. Now this size is very small. It is very small to show you the real size. It is almost similar, same as for this file we have taken. If we check the backup file, let's see that the file I have moved it. So I will move it from D1 to my root directory. Now when I check ls-lh to all the files, so what we see here, the original file is 2.2 KB and the backup file is 10 KB here. So it is more than the original file. But almost it is because the file is very small, so we are seeing a small difference here because the file are very small. It is in KB, so it is adding some of the information about the tar, so that is why it is showing 10 KB. But suppose we have taken the file of the 1 TB data. Suppose we have a directory of 1 TB and we want to take the backup of that directory with the tar command. So the backup file will also be 1 TB. It will create the backup file of 1 TB. In that case, you will not see the difference if the size is a big size. So the size of that file, the original directory or file is suppose 1 TB, and the file which we and the backup we take, that will be the size of also 1 TB. Now what is the problem here? The problem is when we want to take the backup, we have to have a available storage for that also. That means for taking the 1 TB backup, we need the storage, external storage of 1 TB. Remember, we have to keep the file into a secure location, whether it is external storage, CD, DVD or tape drive. So it is not become cost effective, because if suppose I want to take the backup of 1 TB data, so I need 1 TB storage, external storage also to secure the backup, to store the backup. So whenever we take the backup, you have to have that much data available to store the backup or save the backup. So what we can do one more thing. We can do compress the data to save some space. That means when we take the backup of 1 TB data, so we can create a single backup file of 1 TB. Then what we can do, we can compress it to save a data. We can reduce the size of the backup file to save some space, and then we can store it into a flash drive or external drive. So it will save some space for us. Now for saving some space, what we do, we compress the files. We can do compress the files. So we have a commands which we can use to compress the files. So for example, we have this backup file which is 10 KB. I want to compress it. For example, let's assume this is 10 GB file and I want to compress it. So what I can do, I can use the command gzip, and then the file which we want to compress. I want to compress this file, so I will use gzip, and then I will mention what is the file name. This is the file name. Now it will do what? It will compress the file to reduce to save some space. This is not only for the tar file, we can do it for any other file. We can compress any other file. But it will not compress the directory. These compression tools does not work for directory. They do only for files. So I am doing it for the tar file, and when we check it, previously it was saying what? It was saying 10 KB, now it is saying 1.4 KB. So it reduces the size. I can do it for the normal file also. For example, this normal file we have, and I want to compress this normal file, or we have other file also. Let's move this Anaconda. We have the Anaconda file which is 2.1 KB. I want to compress this file, So I can do that by using the gzip command. Gzip to anaconda. And now when you check, so previously it was how much, 2.1 kb, now it is saying 1.2 kb. So it is reducing the size. So we can do it for the any file, or we can do it for the tar file. So what is the useful thing? We'll do it for tar file to save some space when you are taking the backup. Now it will not do it for the directory. If we try to do it on the directory, it will fail. For example, we have this directory D1, and I want to compress this directory by using the gzip command. Gzip D1. So it will say ignored because this one is a directory. You can't do that. So if we have multiple files and we want to compress the data, then we can't do this. We can do it only for files. But we can do what? We can take the backup of the directory, we can make the tar file out of it, and then we can compress that tar file. We can use gzip to compress that tar file. So I can use, instead of D1, I will use D1.tar, and it is compressed. And now when you check, it is reduced now. Previously it was showing how much, 20 kb. Now it is showing what? 3.3 kb. So we can compress any file, whether it is tar file or any other file, but we cannot compress the directories. It is useful for the tar file because we are taking the backup and we want to save some space, so we compress the backup file. So whenever we want to restore it, so we can decompress and restore it. Now for restoring it, decompressing it, what we will do, we will use the command gunzip command to decompress the file. For decompressing it, and then we mention the name of the file which we want to decompress. Remember, it added this extension automatically into it, gz. We have not added it, it added the extension automatically. So we have to give the file name, the compressed file name, and now it is decompress. Now when you check, this anaconda is decompressed, the .gz is removed, and it is now decompressed. We want to decompress this, then we can run the same command, gunzip. Now gunzip means it is actually gunzip d1.tar, and this one is also unzip. I want to decompress this, so I will run this. Now when I check, so all of them are decompressed. Now this one is useful for tar. So what we can do, at the time of taking the backup, we can do what? While we are using the tar command, we can also do what? We can also use the gzip command. We can also use the gzip to compress the tar file. So for example, what I will do, this was the tar file I created. I will remove it, rm-rf d1.tar. Now what? I will create again a backup of this directory. Now we can create the backup tar file, and with the gzip we can create it with compression. And for that we will run the command tar hyphen. For creating the backup we use cvf. Now I want to use the gzip also, so before that cf we will use z command, z option. This will do what? It will create the tar and also take the and also compress it. So I want to use the d1, and then here, because it is adding with the tar, you have to add the extension manually. So d1.tar, then also you have to add .gz manually. Now this is only for our reference. If we don't do this, still it will be the compressed tar file, but for our reference we are mentioning the extension also. Now what it has done now, it has created the tar file with compression, with adding the gz, and now it shows what, 2.1 kb. Remember, when we have taken the normal tar file, it was 20 kb showing, but now it is showing 2.1 kb because we have created the zip, we have compressed it also. Previously it was showing how much? It was showing 20 kb without compression, but now it uses the compression with the tar file. So now if you want to restore it, because it is compressed, so if you want to restore it, so how you will restore? First I will remove the original data. Now I want to restore it. We have the backup file compressed. So for restoring, what we can do, we can first unzip and then restore. But if you don't want to decompress, directly you want to restore, then we can do that by using the tar-zxvf. Normally we use for restoring we use xvf, but we want to use we want to do the decompression and restore, so we will use zxvf, and then we will mention the name of the file, this tar and gzip file, and then enter. So it did what? It decompress it and restore it, but it will not remove the file. It will remain as it is, and it will also remain compressed. So when we check, so we have restored the directory, but the file is still .tar, and also it is compressed. It is not removing the compression. It is the compression. It is still remaining, is still saving our space, and also we have restored the file. So this is what we do. What we save some space by compressing the file. Now this gz is what? It is for the small file, and it do the less compression. Now if we have a large files and we want to do the more compression, then we have the other command. We have a other command that we can use to do the big compression, and that is what? That is bzip2. Now for example, this is our file I want to compress. Same as you can do it for the tar file or normal file. Let's do it for this file. So I want to gzip it, bzip. So for doing more compression, we use bzip2, and then the file which we want to compress. I want to compress this tar file. Remember, it is 10 kb. Now I am using bzip2. Now let's check what is the size now. Now it is showing 1.4 kb. Now previously when we have used gzip, what size it was showing? Let's check the size when it was gzip. This is not here. It is not here, not here, here. Now when it was gzip, it was compressed to 1.4 kb. Now what happened when we use the more compression tool bzip2? Now what is the size it is showing? It is showing 1.4 kb. Now it is still showing 1.4 kb, but I said this bzip do what? It do the more compression. It do the more compression than gzip. It will save more space. It is for the big files, but it is showing the same size. Why it is showing the same size? Because the size itself is very small. It is in just kb. When you compress a big file, then you will see the difference of gzip and bzip2. I will decompress this file first. So for decompressing the bzip2, we will use a command bunzip2, and then we will mention the file name. It will uncompress it. So for compressing it, we use bzip2, and for uncompressing it, we use bunzip2. Now bunzip means b unzip, and then the size will go back to the normal. And normally it was 10 kb, but 10 kb is still very small. So I will show you a big file. I will create a big file, and then I will show you the difference. Now for creating the big file, we need a big file here which we want to compress. So for creating a big file, I have a command here, sec. Now this sec means it is a sequence. It is a command for sequence. What this command do? after the sec command I will mention like number 10 here. So what this command will do, it will print this number 10 sequentially on the terminal. As you see, it printing the numbers sequentially, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So it is just printing the numbers in sequence. For example, if I give a big number, if I give 100, it prints 100. If I give 1000 or more, then it will do that. And it will take a little time for it also. Now what I will do, I will use this to create a big file. Instead of printing it on a terminal, I will redirect the output to a file, and I will say like this is big file. So the output will go to this file, and we can see what is the size of the file. Let's increase, I will increase one more zero here. Let's say how much size it will create. And it will take the time depending on the numbers we have given. Now it has finished creating. Let's check what is the size of this file, this big file. Okay, it has created 848 MB file. So this is actually in MB, and it is almost 1 GB file, 848 MB. Now I will use gzip on it. Now see, this is gzip. Gzip on this big file. Now depending on the size of the file, it will take the time. It is doing the compression for this file, and we'll see how much it will compress it. Now it is done. Now let's check the size of this file with the extension gz, and now we can see it is compressed to 212 MB. It was 848 MB, but after compressing it, it becomes 212 MB. Now this is what gzip. Now I will use bzip. I will first decompress it. So I will use bunzip, not bunzip, we have used gzip. So I will use gunzip for this big file, and depending on the size, it will take a time to decompress it also. And now it is done. Now let's check the size again, and now it is remove the extension gz, and it is go back to 848. Now the same file I will compress with gunzip 2. Gzip 2, bzip 2. Same file, big file. Depending on the size, it will take time. Now it has compressed. Now let's check the size, what size we got with the extension of bz2. This is bunzip 2, bzip 2. So what is the size we got? We got 102. So when we use the gzip, it was compressed to 212, but when we compressed it with a bzip 2, it is compressed it to 102. So it is actually, we have a difference of 110 MB. So this bzip 2 actually do the more compression than gzip. So for uncompressing it, we use bunzip 2 to this big file. Now this bzip 2, this is also good. It will do what? It will do the more compression, and it will be also useful for our tar. So when we are taking the backup of some data, so what we can do? We can take the backup with the compression of bzip. Just like we take the backup of compression, we take the backup and with the gzip compression, so we can also take the backup with bzip 2 compression, more compression. Now it is normal, and we can see now the file is now normal of 848 MB. So now, as I said, we can take the backup with bzip2 also, just like we did it with this gzip. So I will remove this first. Now I will take the backup of this directory with the with the bzip2 expression compression. So we can use it with tar command. Normally we use cvf to create the backup. Now I want to create the backup with bzip2, so I will use J option here. Then we will mention the name of the file .tar dot the extension is bz2, so that we know that this is this is bzip2, and then this is the name of the file or directory which we want to take the backup. Now when we check, so it taken the backup with bzip2 compression. And then what we do for decompressing it, for restoring the data, what I will remove the directory first. Now there is no directory and I want to restore it, so we can restore it with decompressing it and restoring it, but it will not decompress the file, this file, it will just restore with the decompression. So for that we will use tar-jxvf. So this J option is for bzip and Z option is for gzip. Then we will mention the name of the file. So it is restoring it with the decompression, but still it will not remove the original file. This backup file will still remain compressed. It will not remove the compression and it will restore the data. So this is what the tar command which we use to take the backup, and also we can use that we can take the backup with compressing the data. That will help us to store the data and store the backup file in external storages and save some spaces. Save some space in the external storage so that we can store more backup files. Now the next thing is what? If we want to take the backup of the whole file system, that means what? The whole partition, that we can also do by using the dump command. Dump command. Now for example, we have a different partitions available. These are the different partitions we have, and these partitions are mounted on different directories. Let's say for example this home directory. Under the home directory we have the data of all the users. The partition is what? SDA5, and the file system is XFS. Now if suppose here I have data of all the users, and that will be important data, so I want to take the backup of the whole file system, the whole partition. So I can do that by using the command dump, and dump for this XFS partition, XFS file system. So we can take the backup. Now when you take the backup of, when you use a dump command to take the backup of any file system, then we can take it, because now this is a partition, it is a big partition, it is 20 GB, it can be in TBs, and it can contain a lots of memory. Now when you take the backup, so you should take the backup regularly, because suppose today there are some files here and I have taken the backup today, but after 1 week this directory or this file system may added with new files. The users will keep adding the files, so next day or next week it will have new files also. Now we have to take the backup of that new files also. So after every week or every month we should take a backup, so that we can have the backup of the we can have the latest backup. Now if we take every time full backup, that means the all the files of the backup of all the files, then the backup file will keep increasing, the size is increasing, and the time it will take to take the backup will also it will also increase, and that will not good. So what we can do here, we can take the backup of a file system, and we can take the backup, we can take in two ways. First, we can take the full backups, and then we can take the incremental backups also. Now full backup means what? Full backup means we will take the backup of everything right now what is available under the file system. For example, right now we have 1 GB of data in our file system and we are taking the full backup. So all the files right now we have taken the backup. Now next day or next week, in that same directory, same file system, 500 MB data is also added. Now if in next week if I take the full backup, then what that means, I have to take the backup of 1.5 GB, 1.5 GB data. So if I use a backup, full backup, then again I have to use the full size of the backup. That means I have to take the backup of the whole size, that is what, 1 GB and plus 500 MB also. So instead of taking the full backup, next time what we can do, we can use the incremental backup. Now what this incremental backup will do, it will take only the backup of the latest file. So after the 1 GB we have taken here in the full backup, the next incremental backup will do what? It will take the backup of only the new files. So after the 1 GB we have 500 MB files, so it will take only the backup of 500 MB files. So what is the benefit we have? We have the less time to take the backup. It will take the backup very quickly. Now when we want to restore the backup, then what we have to restore? First we have to restore the full backup, and then whatever the incremental backups we have to restore them one by one. Remember, we can design the whole strategy of this. Like for first week we have to take the full backup, then the next week I will take incremental backup, then after the next week I will take incremental backup, after the next week I will take the incremental backup, then after the end of the month again I will take the full backup. Now what I will do, I will remove all these incremental backup files. Now I don't have to keep those files, I can remove them. So, or I can remove this backup file also, or I can do what? I can overwrite this file with this full backup. Then for next month, for next week I will still use the incremental backup. Then again I will use the incremental backup next week. And then I can do what? I can overwrite these files also. Because now we don't need these files, we no longer use these files. So we can do overwrite also. Now what happens if suppose we lose the data or data is failed? For example, here on the third week the database is corrupted. Now we want to restore it from the backup. So what we will do first? We will restore this backup file first full, because it has all the data of these weeks. So we will store this first, and then the latest data is under this incremental backup, so we will use this incremental backup. We will restore these files one by one. So this is what incremental backup. So it is easy for us to take the backup and also for restoring the backup. But first we have to take the full backup, then we can take the incremental backups. So for taking the backup of this XFS file system, we have a command XFS dump. Then we have to mention the level. Now level 0 means it is the full backup. And if we want to take the incremental backup after the full backup, so next time when I take the backup of the same file system, so instead of 0 I will give 1. Then the next week when I take the backup, I will use 2, level 2, then level 3, then level 4, then level 5, then level 6. So these levels are actually what? Incremental backups. 0 means full backup, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is what? All these are incremental backups. So first we have to take the full backup. Then I have to mention the level also. Level, that will be indication, it will be identification for me. That means I am taking the backup, taking full backup of home directory. This is the label. Then I have to mention the file where I want to keep the backup, take the backup. So under the device, I will use st0 as a device file for this partition, for this file system which I am taking the backup. Then finally we have to mention the file system, the partition which we want to take the backup, or we can mention the directory name which backup you want to take. So I can mention this directory. So this directory, on this directory, this is the file system, this is the partition mounted. So it will take the backup of this. So I will mention I want to take the backup of home and enter. So it is saying here using the file this level 0 dump, then the dump date is this, session ID is this is the label, and it is going to see it is inventory is created, and now it is saying please enter the label for media in your drive. Now media, that means what media you are taking the backup, like what is the when we restore, when we when we save this file, so this will be the media ID. I will say this is the first one, the first media we have. Now it is successfully taken. Media label, that means if suppose I take multiple full backups or incremental backups, so I will name them like this 1, 2, 3. So this is what taken successfully. Now I have taken the backup of the home directory. So under the home directory we have these data. So I will do what? I will remove everything from there. Like we have lost everything. So I will remove everything from home. Now when you check, there is no data available. Everything is lost. We have removed everything from the partition. And now we want to restore it. So for restoring it, what we will do? We will use the command xfs restore. Restore from the file dev st0. Now where we want to restore it? So we want to restore it on this directory. And then the restoration is successful. And now we can check, do we have files available there? Yes, all the files are back. All the files or directories are back because we have restored it from the backup. So this is also a backup of the whole file system, and we can take this. So this is what the archiving of files and directories. We can use the tar command. We can use tar command to take the backup with all the attributes for a specific file or directory. Then we can use the compression tool also to store the file with compressions, and we can take the backup of the whole file system by using the dump command, xfs dump. Xfs dump command is for taking the backup of the xfs file system. Now for example, if you have ext file system, then you will use the dump command, only dump command. So dump is actually the backup. Now same, it is also having the level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 0 is the full backup. Then after the full backup, we can take level 1, level 2, level 3. That will be the incremental backups. So this is what the archiving of files and directory in our Linux system. Now the next thing is what? Symlinks. Symlinks, that means link files. We can create the link files, and there are two type of link files we have in Linux. We have soft links and hard links. Now what is link file? Link file is actually the shortcut file we have in Windows. In Windows, we see on the desktop, when you create or install some softwares, you see the shortcut shortcut icons there on the desktop. So those icons is actually the file. It is actually a link file. So in Linux also we can create the shortcuts, and it is called the soft link. So soft links in Linux, it is actually a shortcut in Windows. So same as in Windows shortcut, we have soft link here, and we can create multiple links of the same file. Now when we create the multiple links, that means all the files are linked. and when we update one file, so it will update all the other files also. So for example, here we have one files or many files we have. So let's say I want to create the link for this initial setup file. So for that I will use command ln. Ln command is to to create the link, and if we want to create the soft link, then we will use the S option. Now just like copy or move command, what we have to do, we have to give the source and destination both. Source, that means the file which we want to create the link, and the destination where we want to create the link. Now when we create the link, so for the source and the destination, we should always use the absolute path. Don't try to use the local path. Local path has some limitations, so we should always use the absolute path for source and destination. So this file is located under the home directory of root, so I will mention /root, and under that this is the file I want to create the link. Now where I want to create, so I want to create on the desktop of root, so /root and the desktop. So this is the command to create the soft link. Now how it looks, when you check the desktop here, you can see this is the link of that file, and you can see the small arrow. This is same as we have in Windows. So this is the shortcut file here, it is actually a soft link. Now how it looks in command line, so when you list it, the desktop, you can see it is in the light blue color, and light blue color, that means it is the link file, it is the soft link file. Now when you list it in the long list form, then you can see that it shows that this is the link file of this original file. So the soft link file itself indicate that this is the soft link of this original file. Now when you see the original file, you will see the size here. What is the size? Is actually 2.2 KB, but the link file is actually having only 26. It is not KB, it is actually byte. So it is only 20 or 26 byte. No matter how big the size, the original file size is, maybe it is 848 MB, but still the link will be only this size. Why? Because it is not an original file, it is just a link. So when you open this link, so it actually open this original file. We can create multiple link, and when we update the original file, it will update the link file also. Or if you update the link file, it will update the original file, because actually it opens the original file. So we can create multiple files, or also we can create with a different name also. So for example, I will create under the downloads, I will create with a different name, init. I am giving only init, and I am giving the name on the destination. I am saying this original file link file may be called init. Now when I check on the download directory, I can see it is naming as a init, but it is the link of this original file, and you can see the size is also same. Now when I update the any link file, it will update all the other files. So if suppose I update this file, I will go to this and I will append the file which is located under the download init file, and I will update the number 99999 at the end of the file and save it. Now when you check the link file which is under the download, you can see the line is there, it is updated. When you check the file which is on the desktop, it is also having the same line, and when you see the file which is the original file under the root's home directory, it also has the same line. So because they are linked, they are updated together. But this is just like a same shortcut file in Windows. If suppose the original file is deleted, then what happened? All the link file will be corrupted. We cannot use those link files. So if suppose I remove the original file from here, then what happened? All the link files will be corrupted. Now when you check the file which is on the desktop, it is now corrupted. and we cannot access it even on the download also. These are corrupted. If I try to access any of those link file, it says no such a file or directory, not even a graphical way. It is now showing not, but when I refresh it, you can see it is not showing. Now when I open, it says there is no file. The shortcut, the arrow is gone. It is showing no files. You want to move it to trash? Yes. So you have to remove it because there is no use of it. So you have to remove the original, the link files also, because now they are not usable. Desktop I have already removed. From download I will also remove. So this is just like a shortcut file in Windows, but the hard links are different. In Linux we have hard links. Hard links are different, like it is not like Windows, it is different. Now let's create the hard link. I will create it for the same file. I will do what? Okay, I will create it for this Anaconda. So for creating the hard link, I will use the command ln, and again I will use absolute path. Now I am not using any option, and I want to create it on the desktop with the same name. Now when you check, you will not see any arrow here. It looks like a normal file, and we can create multiple links. I will create one in download also with another name. Now we can check it here. Under the desktop we can see the link. Only the difference is what? You will see the color, and by the color you can understand this is the link, a hard link file. Otherwise, if it is not showing in colors, you will not see the difference. Then on the download also you will see the file. Now when you see the detail information, let's check the desktop file and the download file. In detail, and we see the original file also. So what we saw here, they are all same. The size of the original file is same as all the other hard link file, and there is no, it is not showing any arrow also that it is the link of this file, it is link of that file. It is not showing anything. It is only showing what? The name of the file, and the size is also same, permissions, options, everything is same. Everything is same. So how we know that this file is a link file? Only because of this color you can say that this is having a hard link. And also if there is no color, then we can see by this number. This number indicates the links, and this number indicates hard links, not soft links. So it says that the file contained 3 links, 3 hard links. So we have 3 hard links files. One is the original file, and the other one is under the downloads, and the third one is under the desktop directory. But it shows original file also as a link, because now all 3 files are same, and when we edit any of the file, it will update all the files. So if I try to update one file which is under the download directory, and I will add here this line, so it is going to add into every directory, all the files. If you check the file which is on the original file, you will see the same line. If you see the file which is on the desktop, it will have the same line, and if you see the file which is under the download, it has the same line. Now the difference is this: if suppose the original file is deleted, but still the link files, hard link files will still be available, and you can still use those files. So if suppose I remove the original file, now I remove the original file is not there, but the file which is on the desktop, it is still available. I can open the file, and you can see I can still open the file. I can still open the file by the command line also. This is also available, and also the file which is under the download directory is still available. So all those files are still available, and if you see the detail of those files, so you can see It is still available, normal, not corrupted. Only the difference is what? The link. Now it is having only two links. One is under downloads and one is under desktop. Now this hard link we can do also use as a backup, some kind of backup. That means we can create some important files hard link in some other directory. So if suppose we edit the file, it will edit the link also. And if suppose the original file is deleted, then what we can do? We can use the ln command and we can use one of the link, like I'm using the link on the desktop, and then I will create on the location, original location. Again I create the link and we will get the file back with 3 links. So this is what the hard link. Soft link is just like a shortcut, but the hard link is like the original file. We can delete the original file, but it will not affect the other files. Other files keep is still working. It will keep. We can still access those files. We can still work those files. Now there is a small problem with the hard link. There is a small problem with the hard link, and that problem is this, that we can create the hard link only in the same device. In the same device, that means in the same partition or same hard disk. If you want to create the hard link on another partition, then it will give you the error. For example, we have a file here. Now this one is under slash. I want to create the file under block. I will try to create the link, hard link, under the another partition. Another partition we have mounted on boot. So if I try to mount it, if I try to hard link, I create the hard link here, it gives error. It says fail to create the hard link because what? Invalid cross device link. But in the same place, if I try to create the soft link, it will create easily. This is the limitation we have, and because of this limitation, I told you that use the absolute path every time. Because when you want to use the local path, so for soft link you can use the local path from source, and for hard link you can use the local path from destination. So don't get confused with it, always use the absolute path. So soft link is just a link where it is original file deleted, then all the links will be corrupted. But the hard link is just like a copy, but still it is what? It is a link. It is linked with the all other files. When you update one, it will update all. So how it works? How this soft link, hard link works? For example, suppose I go to download directory and I check the directory. I see this is the file here. Now by the color or by the number, I know that this is the hard link. Now I want to see what are the other hard link files we have. Like where are the other 3 files? So where are the other 3 files? I want to know. How I know? By the name, I can't say that the other files names are different. If we see the files which is under the directory, it is different. This name is different, this name is different. So I cannot say that this is the hard link of this file because the names are different. So how we know that this file is hard link of which other file? So where are the other 2 files? 3 hard links, 1 is here. So where are the other links? So for that, what we can do, we can check and we can find by using the inode number. Actually they are linked by the inode number. Whatever the hard link we create, all those hard links have the same link. So all those hard links will have the same inode number. So if you check one of the inode number, let's say we use this -i option and we'll try to see the inode number of this file. So it says this is the inode number, and when we try to find, now we can find with inode number. So what I will do, I copy the inode number and then I will go for find command and I will try to find with inode number, and I want to check what is the what other files have the same inode number. So it is going to find all the hard links of this file, and you can see it is showing one is under the Anaconda, under the desktop, one is under the download, one is under the slash root. So we have these three links. So because these all files are linked, and they are linked inode number. So this is what soft link and hard link we have. So this is a soft link and hard link. It is called symlinks. Soft links are like shortcut in Windows. Hard links are just like a copy, but they are also linked. They are linked because of inode number. Inode numbers are same for all the hard link files.